And as we proceed, there is now the issue of the IBC reforms.
Yes.
You've realized in every electoral cycle, most of the time, or after every 5 years, we have to create a new election body. Is there a problem with the type of election bodies in terms of how they are constituted? Is the constitution sufficient, in terms of maybe providing for these commissions, or what is the problem with our election bodies?
I think that is not the right framing, in my view. To pose the question, what is the problem with our electoral bodies, is to shift the spotlight from the real problem.
What's the real problem?
What is the problem with our elections generally and our electoral system?
Okay.
Because IBC is just at the epicenter of Kenya's electoral democracy. It manages election.
Yes.
If you want to isolate problems with the IBC, there must be problems that are attributable to their functional mandate.
Okay.
Are you saying that IBC is incapable of producing free, fair, credible, and verifiable election? The proper way to say that with absolute certainty is at the court. If you look at the manner in which courts overturn elections, I think less than a third. I think less than a third is. You look at the 290 constituencies, the 47 counties, the presidential election. The court largely upholds those elections.
Okay.
Very few instances get overturned, and when they get overturned, most of the time, the blame is not on IBC.
Okay.
The blame is on the candidates, bribery, violence, electoral violence, intimidation. These are things that are attributable to candidates.
Okay.
But most of the time, we don't put the candidates on the spotlight, and we don't ask their contribution to the impurities we see in our electoral system.
Okay.
We like to blame the IBC. You see, BBI, for instance, is trying to reform the IBC.
Yeah.
The IBC, as you have now, in terms of the architecture and design, is the best form of election management body you can have. Look at what we have. Previously, before this IBC was instituted, we had IBC commissioners that were nominated. In 1997, we had the IPPG format that political leaders nominated people to sit at the commission, at the ECK. We still had problems with the electoral outcome. Then in 2002, largely, Uhuru Kenyatta considered so IBC, the electoral commission, the ECK was not indicted. In 2013, the constitution ordained a new electoral management body. You see, the shift in the law is this. We now have an electoral election management body that is required to be independent from external influence or political stimuli.
Yes.
You have what you may consider as a neutral expert approach, where the composition of the commission is from neutral experts. And that theme is running across all the constitutional commissions. There's a requirement that they must be apolitical. They must be neutral, and they must be selected based on on merit. Previously, we had what we may consider as a mixed model, where you had a bit of professionals there and people recruited based on recommendation by political parties. So then when you have a mixed model approach where politics is injected into the electoral commission to checkmate each other, it has benefits. But the challenge now with reverting from a neutral expert model to a mixed approach, where now politicians second commissioners, is that in this country, first of all, the entire constitutional design for election management is based on competence, impartiality, independence. You can't change that aspect of IBC without weakening the overall integrity, architectural integrity of the Constitution. Because then it means even all constitutional commission would have then the philosophy of co-opting people referred to by politicians. They would never really be independent. The second problem with that, other than the affecting the constitutional architecture and design of election management bodies and independent offices, is that when you have politicians in the IBC, they will not necessarily be loyal.
Yeah.
You see, the reason why you want to second politicians or people nominated by politicians to IBC is because you hope that if IBC is rigging election, they can raise the red flag, sound the alarm. But looking at our political reality, if I could give you the example of some leaders, Honorable Boni Halwale was a fierce critic of Deputy President William Ruto. Now he's one of the ardent supporters of the Deputy President William Ruto. Honorable Aisha Jumwa was a fierce defender of the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. She's now one of the foremost critics of Raila Odinga, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
We have people shifting allegiances based on political interest.
Yes.
If you put in a political nominee at the IBC, there is no assurance that they'll remain loyal.
Yeah, for sure.
They could still shift alliances. Or even if they remain loyal and they sense that their party is losing, they could sabotage the commission and plunge the country into chaos. So I think we have to be careful not to distort the architecture in the constitution that organizes IBC and all independent commissions around the ideology of independence and expert-driven or neutral approach-driven commissions. Let's not alter that. Let's preserve it. The problem with a mixed model, probably it can work better in advanced democracies. You know, in Germany, for instance, when they had their last election, they were also hosting a marathon. And the election is managed by a government department. You know, the way we do our national census, nobody has a problem with the Minister of Planning conducting census. We don't have an independent commission to carry out the national population census. It's done by government, and we trust those figures. In the West, in stable democracies, election is done by the governmental department. Look at the US election. Do you know even the presidential election is managed in the states? They only relay the results.
Okay.
I mean, there's really not a centralized election management body in the US that manages the whole election. It's managed in different states because people trust the systems, and people know that leadership is for service delivery. In Kenya and in much of Africa, the struggle for leadership may as well be characterized as the struggle for co-option in the club of resource managers. So how you view leadership is not an opportunity to serve the public the way the Constitution anticipates. It's an opportunity first to reward yourself, and then the people who are close to you, and then your community. Sadly, the community never benefits in the long run.
True.
So you keep on carrying the hope that the next person will reward you, but then they never get to reward you. So that's why election in Kenya, and Kriegler got it right. They said Kenya's electoral reality is that elections in Kenya are intensely emotional. People invest in them a lot, and it's a matter of life and death.
Yeah, true.
Because we consider those elections, they're going to bring part of the national cake to us, where us is our community. So you expect your leader to lead other people and so on and so forth. So I think insofar as composition of IBC is concerned, the Constitution ordains the neutral expert approach, and we must preserve it that way.
Okay.
And we cannot talk about blaming or reforming the IBC before we pinpoint the mistakes the IBC has committed, Commissioner. The way to pinpoint those mistakes, Atieno, is that the Constitution provides a predictable pathway for accusing commissioners. It's not through political rallies. If you have an issue that could lead to the removal of a commissioner, you petition Parliament.
For sure.
Outlining the issues, Parliament will interrogate that question. If Parliament finds it merited, it will recommend the President the establishment of a tribunal. The tribunal will examine this matter and make a decision on the merit. If the affected IBC is recommended for firing, then they'll be fired. If they're not happy with that decision, they can challenge it at the High Court and so on and so forth. But you can't sit in a boardroom and declare that IEBC is incompetent. I think that is unfair to our commissions. We will never have a functional commission.
Okay, but
if you go that way.
Okay, I agree with that point, Steve, but there's some things which are of public notoriety.
Yes.
And we can see even when now Chief Justice overturned the presidential election, one
Yes.
of the major issues was on the management of
Yes.
the whole process. So can we say that to some extent, they did not ensure that the election results were verifiable and credible? Because as much as yes, we'll blame the candidates, but they are constitutionally mandated to ensure that the elections are free, fair, verifiable, and credible, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
no, I agree with you on that question, but it's not surprising. The reason why we have Article 140, the Constitution itself anticipates that IEBC may make honest mistakes, for which an election may be overturned. I mean, even the High Court makes judgments that are overturned by the Court of Appeal and so on and so forth. Do you get judges removed because your decision has been overturned by a superior court?
Yeah.
I mean, you keep on learning, keep on working, keep on improving, right? But there's a significant issue there you are raising. The Supreme Court, in nullifying the outcome of the 2017 presidential election, declared and stated correctly that election is not an event. Election is a process.
Yes.
And the law must be complied with every step of the way.
Yes.
And they are not satisfied that IEBC did its best in complying with the law every step of the way, including especially management of election results.
Yes.
But they did not make a finding about criminal culpability on the part of the commissioners.
Yes.
But in any case, if somebody has evidence that can lead to a determination of impropriety, illegality, irregularity on the part of an individual commissioner or all the commissioners that could lead to removal, the Constitution has also anticipated that, that you presented in Parliament. So I don't think nullification of a presidential election in and of itself indicts IEBC at an individual commission level. It just says that the manner of management of the election fell short of the constitutional expectation. Go back and do it better. And if the Supreme Court, interestingly, did not trust IEBC to manage the fresh election, they do not have ordered them by the law, as by law required, to conduct fresh election within another 30 days. Yeah, So I mean, within another 60 days, that would not have happened. So I think the conversation around reforming election management is an honest conversation. IEBC itself must lead from the front, telling Kenyans what they think their experience has been in 2013 and 2017, what they think they can do better to make sure that we understand the challenges that we have seen in the two elections under the new constitution and how we are addressing those challenges so that they don't reoccur. But I can tell you, most of the problem of election management is budget related. You know what Kenyans don't understand is this. In terms of election management, election is a whole cycle. The next election starts at the conclusion of the last election. When you declare the president and is sworn in, and the day the president assumes mandate, and you have a functional government, Parliament is gazetted, they have been sworn in, they have elected a speaker, the president has been sworn in, if there's no challenge to his election, the commencement of the term of the new government, both the political wing of government, marks also the commencement of the next electoral cycle. IEBC doesn't have money right now to conduct the boundaries review. They have no money to perform their function because Parliament does not consider that a priority. If you give IEBC money, already we are less than 24 months to the election. You want to give IEBC money the last 12 months of election. I mean, even if I was the commissioner or the chairperson of IEBC, there's only so much you can do. So I think we must blame the political government, the political wing of government, for especially the National Assembly and the Treasury, for frustrating IEBC's mandate. You know, the product is as good as the process. If you deny IEBC money to recruit and retrain the constituency returning officers, those are permanent and pensionable employees, to deny ABC the opportunity, the resources to do continuous voter registration, updating the register, engage with stakeholders. You know, you're basically telling them, we will need you the last year to election. And election law experts will tell you. Electoral reforms, the conversation for electoral reform need to begin after the new government assumes mandate and conclude 3 years into the new government's mandate. So the last 24 months, or the last 2 years to election, there's nothing happening.
Wow.
The law reform has been done, procedures have been made. We're just now preparing.
But in Kenya,
You know,
it's the opposite.
no. In Kenya, sadly, I mean, we are a reluctant democracy. This is, in short, this is a pretension of democracy.
Yeah.
And now it's easier to locate the blame on IBC because IBC has no one to speak for it. So that's the tragedy in our election management.
Okay, and even as we conclude the discussion on IBC, there are just 3 commissioners right now. Are they can they handle a whole general elections as they are constituted right now?
Well, the answer is no, because first of all, we're not going to have a general election until the next election calendar. But I think the question is, if Parliament were dissolved, for instance, can IBC conduct this election?
Yes.
The answer is yes, because this is not. It will be conducted. It's like a by-election, just gazetting, and then the election. You see, election management is not about the commissioners. Okay. It's about the entire secretariat, the entire infrastructure. It exists, and if IBC is not able to, it will be because of lack of budgetary or financial constraints.
Okay.
But there's been a lot of contest around the composition of IBC.
Yeah.
I think I've spoken to this issue before. If you look at the IBC Act as amended, the procedure for replacement of commissioners who resign is outlined in that law.
Yes, it is.
I mean, you have to be honest. I heard some point Parliament saying we need a new law that can facilitate the appointment of commissioners. Section 5A of the IBC Act as amended provides that in the event that a commissioner has resigned, the procedure outlined in the first schedule of the IBC Act shall be read with the necessary modification.
Yeah.
And that is what Section 7 also of the IBC Act as amended amplifies. The procedure is as follows. There has to be, the president must declare the vacancy within 14 days.
Yeah.
Not step by step, but does the law permit, as it is, the president to declare vacancies? If it occurs in the commission, yes. Are there vacancies? Yes. Has he declared? No.
Wow.
Then, within 14 days after the declaration of those vacancies, there's supposed to be an empanelment of a selection panel. If you look at the composition of the selection panel, it is outlined in the first schedule.
Yes.
It's just the organizations listed there are seconding seconding their teams to sit there. The selection panel within 21 days is supposed to advertise the vacancies and then sit to interview. And then the law says, if you are recommending appointment of a commissioner, you send 3 names. So since 3 commissioners resigned, and Akombe also resigned earlier, so we have 4 commissioners who have exited. You can recommend. We have 4 commissioners that we need at the commission. You can recommend up to 9 names because it says read and interpret with the necessary modifications.
Yes.
So that the president has a decent sort of what you can say options to pick from when he's selecting the commissioners. So yes, the law on replacement of IBC commissioners is in place, but politicians don't want IBC to be reconstituted using the existing legal framework because they want the entire commission disbanded. If they want the entire commission disbanded, that's fine. I mean, even me as a Kenyan, I may want the entire commission disbanded, but let's not disband IBC the right way. Not by pretending that you don't have law, a legal framework for replacing those who resigned. The only person who could not be replaced was Commissioner Kombe. Because Article 134, 136 of the Constitution says, if the president may not appoint commissioners during temporary incumbency, meaning the period where we're in election period, we've gone into the election, we haven't elected a new president, he is in government, yes, but he cannot make substantive appointments. So Akombe's resignation, Akombe's replacement had to wait the new government. But the likes of Commissioner Connie Maina and the other two, Jacinta Mochaya, who resigned, these ones could be replaced.
Yeah.
The law is in place.
Yes.
I think the challenge we see with the composition of the IBC is attributable to lack of political goodwill, as opposed to a gap in the law. Again, the challenges we see in terms of reforming the commission is that politicians are not telling us what exactly is wrong with this commission.
Yes.
They're just telling us the IBC has lost public trust. But public trust is a function of some misconduct. Gross misconduct, violation of the law, conviction of a criminal offense. I mean, you can isolate.
Yeah, you can.
Let's just even isolate one incident where you think Chairman Chabukati or Commissioner Goro or any of these commissioners have violated or infringed on the law, which then may be a reason for removal. They're not saying that.
Okay. I agree with you, but generally, do you think Kenyans trust the electoral body?
Kenyans don't trust the electoral body. And Kenyans will never trust the electoral body as long as trust is based not on the performance of the IBC, but on the impression created by the political elite.
Okay.
You know, once you bastardize the IBC and you have near fanatical support, why would Kenyans have confidence in IBC when the trusted political leaders are saying IBC mismanaged the election?
Yeah.
We are unable to hold our leaders to account.
Yeah.
So we can't ask political leaders who are saying that IBC messed the election. We can't ask them, excuse me, how did IBC mess the election so we can petition Parliament for their removal?
Yes.
You know, we are a country that rides on political euphoria and fanatism.
Yeah.
You know, you look at our rallies and say, you know, so that kind of euphoria denies us an opportunity for a sober reflection of the challenges of governance of IBC as a commission. And it also shields the political elite from accountability.
Yes.
Because nobody ever blames the politician for bad elections.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah, for sure. No.
We never blame them. We never blame partly we would blame the judiciary, but since the judiciary also nullified an election, the punching bag is the IBC. So public trust on the IBC is low because politicians have decampaigned and delegitimized and defunded the IBC.
Okay.
So if you want to kill a dog, you give it a bad name. Does IBC have a bad name?
Yes.
It does. Should it die? Politically, yes.
Okay, now in our closing thoughts, we've talked so much about the electoral system, the challenges, and now the possible reforms. What could you advise now the IBC moving forward so that you can have an election that is at least different in terms of even the outcome and also the preparedness? Because I know, of course, it's not only them, there are various stakeholders who need to ensure that this election is managed well. What will be your final comments on that?
IBC needs to turn a new page. It needs to learn to stand up, stand out, speak up. It needs to borrow a leaf from the judiciary. The judiciary has learned the hard way that if you keep quiet, politicians can give you a bad name and they can create an impression in the mind of Kenyans that the judiciary is doing nothing. So you see the Chief Justice getting increasingly agitated and very swift and deliberate and firm in his responses. He doesn't wait for someone to speak. He doesn't wait for someone to speak for the judiciary. He speaks all the time. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? That's an ongoing debate. IBC must improve their communication strategy. They must begin to engage with Kenyans. Because I can tell you, the ordinary Kenyan, the Wanjiko on the street, does not understand that IBC right now ought to have prepared for the next election 3 years ago. It does not, Wanjiko does not understand that IBC is financially starved of resources. The Wanjiko does not understand that the law on replacement of the resigned commissioners is in place. Wanjiko does not understand that The boundaries review, which is a core function of mandate, cannot progress because Parliament has denied it money. Treasury has refused to release money. IEBC needs to engage Kenyans more robustly, so that you need to kick the ball down the road and make sure that the ball lands in the court, in the right court, the political court, for accountability. But when you keep quiet, hoping that you are making a moral appeal to the political elite who don't care about you, you know, they say you cannot make a moral appeal to your oppressor. Because if they had a moral consciousness, they would not be oppressing you to begin with. You fight back. You have to fight back very firmly, very decisively, so you can earn your respect. IBC is timid. You know, and if it's timid, it will be stepped on, it will be fought, it will be delegitimized. It will be disbanded. It must speak up, it must speak out, it must be firm, and it must engage Kenyans. Because, you know, look at India. I think Kenyans don't, I think this comparative conversation is very important for us to understand.
Yes.
In India, the election management body enjoys fanatical support of the voters. It is the citizenry that support, even the civil society, that fight to defend the electoral commission. The way we fight for the judiciary is the way voters and citizens fight to protect the election management body. So so then it reduces opportunity for manipulation. So in Kenya, until we reach a level where we start defending IBC, we will not be able to mitigate some of the falsehoods or misrepresentation we see within our political elite. So IBC needs to be able to engage more with stakeholders, improve their communication strategy, explain what they have done in the limited circumstances, ask Kenyans what they can do to support it, you know, and just be engaging. That's what Article 10 says, public participation. Engage them every step of the way. Then they will protect you and defend you when you're being delegitimized. Yes.
Oh, I have loved this conversation. I hope it stirs up, you know, thoughts which are progressive, because we should be able to learn from our past mistakes. And if every election is the same, there's nothing more learning, for sure. So thank you so much, Council, for blessing my channel, and I hope we'll have another discussion moving forward when the time is right again. It was nice having you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.